Hey y'all, it's Megan, and this is a tutorial for the Paris Palazzos gathered side panel pant option. If you want to see the other videos for this pattern, including the shorts with drawstring and the simple pants with the optional inseam pocket, then I will go ahead and link those down below. The first step is to construct the side panels. So you're going to take one front top panel and place it right sides together with a back top panel. If you are doing the inseam pocket option, then you would add the pockets to the front top panel first. You're going to stitch the front and back top panels together using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And after you stitch this seam, then you need to finish it. You can use a zigzag or overcast stitch on your sewing machine, or you can use your serger. After I finish the seam, I like to press it toward the back panel. You can set that aside for a moment, and you're going to take one center panels and you are going to run 2 gathering stitches along the top. You want to run these at 1/4 inch and 5/8 inch from the raw edge. And don't gather them yet, just leave your tails long. Then you're going to take that center panel and you're going to fold it in half to find the center and just place a clip or pin there. You are also going to take your top panel and fold it in half to find the center. The back panel is a little wider than the front, so the seam is not the center. Once you have those, you are going to lay that top panel out flat with the right side up, and you are going to take the center panel and put it right sides together, matching those center pins or clips. Then you're going to match each end and then pull the gathering stitches or thread to evenly distribute the gathers, and you're just going to pull the other side so that it fits. And once you have that center panel gathered to be the same size, you will stitch the two together using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. After you have it stitched, I like to first take it to my ironing board and give it a really nice press to lock those gathers in and make sure that they look nice. And then I will pull the gathering threads out to remove them and finish the seam with a serger, or you can use your sewing machine. Then you will press that seam up toward the top panel, and if you would like to, you can top stitch that on the top panel side. Set that aside for a moment and grab one of your bottom panels, and we are going to gather the top the same way we did the center panel. So I'm going to run 2 gathering stitches, one 1/4 inch from the edge and one 5/8 inch from the edge. Then you are going to fold this bottom panel in half to find the center. And if you want to stop here and just find the center, you can, but I really like to go ahead and quarter this panel since it is wider and I really like my gathers to be evenly distributed. So I will find the quarter points of the bottom panel, and then I'm going to do the same thing with the center panel. I'm going to fold it in half to find the center and then fold the ends to meet the center to find the quarter points. Then you're going to lay the panel out flat so the right sides are up, and then you're going to take that bottom panel and put it right sides together, and you are going to pin the quarter points and the edges together and then pull those gathering stitches so that the bottom panel is the same width as the center panel. I really like to take my time here, again, making sure that the gathers are evenly distributed. Once you are done and the bottom panel is the same width, then you are going to stitch the bottom panel to that center panel using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Again, I like to take this to my ironing board after I sew them together and give it a really nice press to lock those gathers in before removing the gathering stitches and then finishing the seam with my serger. Then you can press that seam up toward the center panel and top stitch if you'd like. And then your side panel is complete on this side, and you're going to repeat all of these steps with your other panel pieces. Make sure if you're using a solid fabric that you are making a panel for each leg. So your top pieces should be opposite on the other side panel. Now you're going to take one side panel piece and you are going to place it right side together with the front leg. Make sure that you are aligning the front leg to the front panel. And you are going to pin these together from the top of the waistline all the way down to the hem. Once you have these pinned right sides together, you are going to stitch that front leg to the side panel using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Then you are going to finish that seam and give it a press toward the front leg. And if you want to, you could top stitch it in place. Once you have the front leg sewn to the side panel, we need to do the same thing with the back leg. So you are going to take one back leg piece and place it right sides together to the side panel. And you are again going to pin it from the waist to the hem and then stitch it together using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And then finish that edge with your serger or sewing machine and give it a nice press. You can press the seam toward the back leg and then top stitch in place if you would like. This next step is optional, but why I have my leg flat, I like to go ahead and create a memory press on the bottom hemline. To do this, I'm going to finish the hem using my serger. I'm not cutting any off here. I'm just finishing the raw edge. And then I'm going to take it to my iron and I'm going to press the hem up a 1/2 inch toward the wrong side. If you don't have a serger to finish the edge, then you can create a memory press using a narrow hem by pressing a 1/4 inch to the wrong side and then another 1/4 inch to the wrong side. Then we're going to sew our inseam. So I am going to unfold that memory press and pin the front and back legs right side together from that hemline all the way up to the crotch curve. Once you have the front leg and back leg pinned in place, then you're going to stitch them together using a 1/2 inch seam allowance and then go ahead and finish that seam. You're going to repeat these steps with the other side panel and front and back leg pieces. Again, making sure that you're creating the opposite side, one for each leg. I do like to press one inseam toward the back, and then on the other leg, I'm going to press the inseam toward the front. So when we sew our crotch curve, these seams are nested nicely. Now you're going to flip one leg right side out and one leg wrong side out. You're going to place the right side out leg inside of the other so that your pants are right sides together. You're going to pin the two legs together along the crotch curve. So the front legs should be facing each other and the back legs should be facing each other. Again, I like to nest that inseam so that it's not very bulky. Once I have the two pant legs pinned together, I'm going to stitch them from the top of the front crotch curve to the back top crotch curve, again using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And once I have them sewn together, I'm going to finish that seam, and then you can pull your legs right side out and you can set those aside while we start to work on our waistband. You're going to put your front and back waistbands right sides together, and you're going to stitch each short end using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. You can either press this seam open because it will be enclosed, or you can go ahead and finish it with a serger or sewing machine if you'd like. Then you are going to fold your waistband in half long ways with wrong sides together, enclosing that seam. And you are going to place a pin at the center front waistband and at the center back waistband. Now we're going to attach the waistband to your pants. So with the right sides together, you're going to pin the waistband to the waistline of your pants. The center front waistband should match the center front seam. The side seams of the waistband should match the side seams of your top panels. And then you're also going to pin the back center waistband to the back seam. Once you have your waistband pinned on, then you're going to stitch them together using a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and you're also going to leave an opening to thread our elastic. You need to leave a 2 to 3 inch opening. Then you're going to grab your waist elastic, and you can use a safety pin or a bodkin to thread that elastic through the waistband using the opening that we left in the waistband. You will pull it all the way through, and once you get it to the other side, you're going to overlap the edges of the elastic by a 1/2 inch, and then you're going to stitch them together a few times using a stretch stitch to hold the elastic in place. Then I like to stretch the elastic and make sure that the elastic is sitting nicely in the waistband and that it's evenly gathered. And then you're going to take it back to your machine, and we need to close that opening that we left. So you're going to pull your elastic straight as you're stitching, and you're going to sew the opening closed using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Make sure that you don't accidentally catch the elastic in this seam as you're sewing. Once you have that opening sewn closed, then you need to finish that entire waist seam. So again, you can use your serger or your sewing machine to finish the seam. And then I like to give it a really nice press. And again, make sure your elastic is really even before we start the next step. So just stretch it a few times to make sure that it's all evenly spread throughout the waistband. Next, you are going to stitch directly on the markings on your waistband piece. You do need to use a stretch stitch here. I like to use a longer triple stitch, and you are again going to sew directly on those lines that you have marked. As you're doing this, you need to pull the elastic straight on the portion that you're stitching. You're going to do this around the entire waistband on both sets of markings and lines on your waistband piece. This is so that the waistband doesn't move around. If you're doing the drawstring option, it also is creating a casing for that drawstring. If you don't love the look of this and you're not doing the drawstring option, you can skip this step I like to do it so that my elastic doesn't move around in my waistband or twist while I'm wearing it. You could also just stitch in the ditch on the side seams of the waistband to hold the elastic in place. After you finish sewing both lines, take it to your ironing board and give it a really nice press. Then the final step is just to hem the bottom legs. So repress that memory press that we made and go ahead and edge stitch the hem in place. There is a 1/2 inch hem allowance given in the pattern. You're going to do this for both legs, and then your Paris palazzos with the really cute side gathered panel are complete. If you have any questions on sewing these up, as always, you can leave a comment down below and I will try to answer them. If you make a pair, we would love to see them. Please post them in our Facebook group, or you can tag me on Instagram at Made for Mermaids, hashtag Made for Mermaids Patterns, hashtag Paris Pattern.